Sure, it's ready.
Alright, so just to get started, what was kind of your thought process just watching Victor go through that weekend and finish as the top finisher?
Yeah, that was a thrill. I mean, I've been really fortunate over the last year, starting with the national championship, to see our guys do something special like that. Then 2 months later, to be standing there while Victor wins the U.S. Amateur at a historic venue, and then to watch him do what he did at Augusta is just a thrill and an honor for me to be on the bag. It was great that he was able to just be himself there and perform. He kept asking me, it's like, Coach, what's wrong with me? I'm really calm, I'm relaxed, where most kids are freaking out. So it was really just a thrill to be there. And then things got kicked up a notch to kind of witness history there on Sunday with Tiger, and for him to get to sit next to him, stand on the green while the crowd's going crazy for him. That was really special.
You said that before when you've gone as OSU guys that they hadn't made the cut in the Masters, right? So what do you think it was? Was it that calm demeanor, or what was it about Victor that allowed him to do that?
Probably. He wasn't overwhelmed by being there. Who knows? Maybe I screwed those other guys up and just shut up this time. I don't know. But he's a very good player, and he's had a lot of success, was playing very well leading in, and you never know what the difference is in a week. But it was just cool to see him get to play the weekend, and a relief for me. I finally wasn't the anchor that kept him down.
So Victor said that he was involved in having a Tiger won, right? Where were you at that time?
Well, when we finished, it was actually really cool. I was waiting around for him to finish with interviews, and one of the members came up and grabbed Victor, myself, and my son was there just watching the tournament too. So the three of us, he took us to another cabin, the Firestone cabin, and he said, you're going to be the low amateur, so I've got to look after you before we go into Butler cabin. You'll be able to watch the tournament in there. And we went in there, and Condoleezza Rice was in there. So Victor and the three of us, me, Victor, my son, we watched the last, say, hour and a half of the broadcast with Condoleezza, and that's where I was when he was in the Butler cabin.
I know it was busy, of course, that day. Did you get to talk to Tiger at all?
I did just briefly afterwards. I talked to him once earlier in the week, and I just shook his hand when he came off the putting green and told him great job.
How big is it for the program that whenever they're in Butler cabin and you see Tiger next to a kid in an OSU shirt?
Well, it's huge. I think they said there were 18 million people or something like that watching. So to see the Swingin' Pete logo there was huge, but more than that, to just see a product of our program, Victor Hovland, represent himself with that much class and humility on a big stage like that. That's huge for Oklahoma State golf, but just for our university as a whole. So it was a really proud moment, I think, for anyone that bleeds orange, for sure.
You joked that you didn't hold him down because he made the cut, but how much did your experience at Augusta really help in maybe even the practice rounds, just getting him ready for what it was going to be like come Thursday?
We did a good job of preparing him with the people that he played with in the practice rounds. That was fantastic. Victor did all the work. All I did was try to give him conviction and trust in the decisions that he was making, and I do have some experience there, so hopefully that helps some. But he played with 7 major championship winners throughout the week, and prior to the tournament starting, he played 9 holes with Sergio on Monday, which was super helpful to have the 2017 champion. He played with Bernard Langer on Tuesday, the 85 and 93-ish champion, and then to play with Dustin Johnson, the #1 player in the world, and Brooks Koepka and Ricky on Wednesday. I think all of that was huge. So collectively, he had some nice experience. If he didn't believe maybe what I might have said, those guys kind of backed all that up. So what an education for a kid. And then in the tournament, he played with Patrick Reed and Webb Simpson. So he got to see a lot of different styles of play. He also played with Jimmy Walker. So all those guys had won major championships. And Ricky hasn't won a major, but he's won the Players' Championship, and he's been right there in contention, especially at the Masters. So to take all that knowledge and put it into use in the tournament was super helpful, and that's going to be huge for him as he tries to lead our team to another championship and then for his future as a professional.
What were your interactions like with the 4 other OSU guys that were there?
We spent some time with Charles Howell. There were a lot of rain delays and things. We spent a long period of time talking with Alex Noren, Victor liked that a lot, and I hadn't seen Alex in a while, but both of them being Scandinavians, they got to speak some, I don't know what they were speaking. I mean, Victor's from Norway, Alex from Sweden, but they were speaking some foreign language that was the same, or at least they could understand. So that was fun. Talked to Kevin Tway pretty much every day, Ricky every day. I had dinner with Ricky and his family, and Charles. Who am I missing? I guess that's everybody. But so yeah, there was a lot of time around all of them. Not all on the golf course, but most of it at the golf course. And then Victor's played practice rounds with Charles, so they had a nice banter going back and forth because Victor ditched Charles. They were maybe going to play on Wednesday, and he ditched him for Ricky and DJ and those guys. So they had a great, friendly banter back and forth. We hurt Charles' feelings for not playing with him on Wednesday.
Victor talked about how it took him a little bit to settle in. He talked about how he hit it in the water on 11, and then after that kind of had some good shots to get him, back in this game. Was there a moment when you really saw him kind of settle in and show his confidence?
Yeah, that was on the 11th hole of the first round. He hit it in the water. He hit an uncharacteristic shot there. He had a little bit of mud on his ball. I don't know where that shot came from because it came out of nowhere, but he was settled in well before that. He said he looked calm from the start. You couldn't have hit a better tee shot on the first hole right out of the gates, and that's generally where you're most nervous. He said after he hit his chip shot on the second hole that he settled down, but from my perspective, he was calm the whole way, and that's one of the great things with Victor. He wasn't in a rush. I think we talked the last time to get to Augusta National. He didn't go until the weekend before, where most guys, they can't get there soon enough, and it doesn't do you that much good. The conditions are so different, and so he was calm from the start from my perspective. He said after the little chip shot on the second hole that he had settled in and really had an unforgettable week.
It's funny you said that was nerve-wracking moment was when Tiger walked in when he was doing that interview. So how do you think just kind of his calm mentality and his experience in the Masters can help future guys who go play in PGA tournaments?
Yeah, I mean the young guys now, they're not nearly as intimidated going out on tour, and so he freed young guys up, and the other amateurs. I mean there were 4 amateurs that made the cut, so that kind of gives permission for the rest of the guys to do something like that. And we've had guys do that before at the Masters. It's not unprecedented that an Oklahoma State golfer would make the cut. Hunter Mahan did that. Lindy Miller, I think, still has I think Victor broke his low score record, but Lindy finished, I think, 16th and earned his way back in to the next year. So that was kind of my goal for the week. But certainly that's huge for his confidence because Victor didn't play as good as he can play either. He was just very much himself, and I know there's shots he'd like to have back, and it's not like he maxed out to do what he did. So that should be huge confidence for him, and all these tour events that he's gotten to play, I think have helped him perform better in college, and they're going to be difference makers for our team, and he can bring those stories back. All that trickles down through our team, through our veteran guys and our young guys, and can pay dividends for years for us.
He talked with us a little bit earlier about his recruiting process. He mentioned you went out to a tournament in, I think, 2013 when you first saw him. Kind of what do you remember about that time?
Yeah, it's kind of come full circle. When I got hired as the men's coach, Donnie Darr was the head men's coach at Ohio State. Donnie and I had worked together here before, and he's back now as our assistant. So he had suggested that I recruit a kid named Chris Ventura, who came and played for us. So I went to Scotland to watch the Norwegian team and see if Chris would be a good fit, but I got the bonus of seeing the rest of their team, and Victor, I saw something special, I thought, in him. He was not their best player. He was new to the team, but I've been a good player and been around good players for a long time, so I know what I like to see, and he competed the way I like to see a kid compete. So I continued to stay in touch with him and follow what he was doing. So that's how we got turned on to him. We're fortunate that both those kids came here and they were both a part of last year's national championship team.
I'm not very in tune with European golf recruiting, but was he highly touted? Were a lot of schools after him?
Not at that point. By the time he came to school, he was one of the better players in Europe. At that point, he was just another guy in the field. And again, he wasn't, but that's what the perception would have been if you looked at rankings and things like that. But I don't try to go off of rankings. I try to go off the athlete that I see, because you're trying to, any recruiting, you're trying to project what they can be in the future, and that's not always easy to do. Our sport, you can attach a number to their name, where in other sports it's really completely subjective, other than 40 times and stuff like that. Ours, you can go over the scoreboard. He was not the best scorer of the week, but I thought he was a player for the 2016 class that we wanted. I thought he was the best guy there, and I thought that the next year. And by the time he came here, I was right, and then he's just continued on the right kind of trajectory. So that's pretty much the scenario you'd like with every recruit. Sometimes you get it right, sometimes you don't. But with him, I certainly got that right.
What do you sell on those guys? Because even like Matthew Wolf, he's from California, probably didn't grow up an OSU fan. So how do you sell the program to them?
If they want to come play for the best, that's Oklahoma State. We've been that way for a long, long time, and that started years ago with Laban Harris and what he did, and then Mike Holder built on that, Mike McGraw built on that, and we're trying to keep the same thing. So if you get the right kids here, no matter where they're from, hopefully we weed through that in recruiting. But you get the kid that embraces competition and wants to be the best, they come here and they do great things.
Well, he said he was kind of relieved or happy to be back, and you go from Butler Cabin with Tiger to hanging out, in college again, and you wonder, I asked, the way I put it was, is your head still back there a little bit? He said, actually, it's kind of nice to be here. Have you sensed that as well?
He said that. He's a humble kid, and he loves to compete. I don't think he's that into the attention. He wants attention for his performance, which is refreshing. He's refreshingly mature for a 21-year-old kid. Has a great perspective, I think, kind of on the world. So I think he meant that. I think he likes his teammates. He likes being here. He's excited about what we're getting ready to go and do. So I think that's probably where that comes from. He loved competing in the Masters, but he's not a guy that wants a whole bunch of people around and cameras and things in his face. But he certainly wants to be up at the top of the leaderboard, and the one comes with the other. So he's learning to handle that, I think, and he's really grown up and understood that process, I think, from before the U.S. Amateur last year to now. I think he understands that comes with the territory.
You mentioned his maturity. The story's always been that he helped master English by watching movies. So we asked him, what I thought, okay, I wonder what movies. Figured, action comedy or
No.
Bruce Willis. He says Lincoln and Amistad.
Yeah.
Like, really?
Yeah, and again, that tells you he does not like, stupid comedies. He won't even watch them. He's very different. He's not on Twitter. He's Snapchats like every other kid, but yeah, he's into some different things. You can sit down and you have a little different conversation with him than you do a lot of kids his age. And it was awesome to see last year at the U.S. Amateur, he destroyed his opponents. So, he just obliterated them and ended that final match early, and they brought him into the booth, because there was still a lot of the broadcast to go. And I was outside of the booth thinking he'd be in there for a short period of time, and he was in there for 30, 40 minutes. He kind of carried the broadcast. There's not a lot of 21-year-olds that could add that much substance, and he did a great job there. He's a very intelligent kid, very humble, caring, just fun to talk to, for sure. And that question gives you a lot of insight into that.
All right.